all I have been seeing on my TikTok is that we gotta build community, we got to build our villages, we gotta build them up, our support networks, and in order to do that, we need to be better villagers, we need to be better community members. And it's like, yes. However, I think a lot of this advice is actually just creating more confusion for people and causing more overwhelm. So we're gonna address that a bit today. And if you're like, oh, I haven't been seeing that on my TikTok, my For You page looks very different from usual, you've probably felt this in some type of way. The absence of a social, like a true, not just like a social media platform, but a social network, a community where people are involved and are supportive of each other, meaningful friendships, having people to call when stuff hits the fan, whether you are a new mom, whether you moved, or whether you are just somebody that works in this developed, lonely world and like works from home or something. So I am so excited to dive into this. If you are new to me, hi, I'm Jewel. I'm so happy you're here. If you're returning, hi, I love you. Thank you for coming back. And I am so excited about today's episode. I have been a gremlin writing it. I have been learning everything I can for the past 5 years about community, about connection, about charisma, about high-functioning social anxiety, and about meaningful friendships. And full-time, for the past 5 years, I have been coaching people on those very things and teaching about it. And I was so excited to write this episode, and wow, was I a little gremlin writing and reading and learning all of the perspectives and all of the things on this. I'm so excited. However, it did really reinforce a lot of what I already knew and gave me a chance to explain it even clearer for y'all. So without further ado, let's jump in to our first thing. Our first thing is really the foundation in which the rest of the buckets will stand on. And that is that we need to move away from hyper-individualism toward interdependence, right? I think when a lot of people talk about community building, village building, they end up confusing their people or just overwhelming their viewers because they're talking about it from a sense of like, you got to get more involved in your communities, you need to be a better villager and like start taking people to the airport and etc. But they're not addressing the hyper-individualism that is the foundational mindset for this person. That's going to feel like really far-fetched, unnecessary, overwhelming. It's going to feel too much unless you address this piece. So we live in a culture that's obsessed with hyper-individualism, and hyper-individualism is really just like the constant push to be self-sufficient and honestly to be kind of all about yourself and your own success, right? It's to handle everything alone and treat every challenge like it's your personal mountain to climb, right? It's basically the silent voice that's in your head that's like, just do it yourself. Don't be a burden, babe. And you should know how to do this. You shouldn't have to ask for help. You should need no validation ever. As if, like, we've demonized validation in this culture. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to depend on validation. There's the garage, Nick. We're going to wait for that. Nick, sorry about that. Okay. I'm going to start over, Nick. Okay. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to depend on validation. We don't want to depend on other people liking us to feel good about ourselves. But also, little reassurance, little validation every once in a while isn't a bad thing. It's part of being seen in a relationship and being witnessed as somebody validating you. However, this hyper-individualism, it's not only kind of lonely, but it's also just not how we were built to live, right? Hyper-individualism just has us ending up feeling like we need to carry like our to-do list and carry the weight of proving ourselves all on our own. And it can really lead to lower self-confidence because every mistake, every moment, every struggle ends up feeling like such a personal failing. Now, I really wanted to include this in here. Securely attached adults are people who can trust and rely on others and are comfortable offering support. I bring up securely attached individuals because they're practicing interdependence. In contrast, however, avoidant attached individuals, where people keep others at arm's length and they feel safest handling things alone, that not only is like avoidant attachment style based in whatever childhood or past relationships that created that avoidant attachment style, but that is also being reinforced and rewarded in our hyper-individualism culture. And I think we can really see that because research has shown that avoidant attachment is on the rise in the United States, meaning that people are starting to feel like weary of closeness and starting to see as relying on others as like risky or shameful or just not something we need. Now, if you're hearing this and you're like, okay, yeah, hyper-individualism, I'm familiar with it, not cool, but I don't really want to like go and like be completely dependent on people. Y'all, I'm not asking you to go from being like really independent all the time to codependent, where you're reliant on others, right? We don't want to swing to the other extreme and depend on everyone for everything. That's not sustainable either. And what I think some people are getting wrong when they talk about community, when they talk about building villages, is that they're kind of pushing this 180 to jump from individualism to collectivism. But the truth is, we don't want to swing all the way to the collectivism either. Because in collectivist cultures, often what happens for people is that they lose their sense of self and they feel like their worth depends on how they fit in the group. Collectivist cultures also, like, the pressure to blend in and to meet the group's expectations can overshadow somebody's personal needs, stifle their individuality, and create fear of speaking up when something doesn't feel right. We don't want that. And again, that's why we're going for interdependence. In between independence, where we're all alone in this, and in between codependent, where I'm relying on another person all the time, interdependent. It's about mutual care, shared vulnerability. It's the sweet spot between those things. It's about trusting that needing and being needed is part of what makes relationships so real, and that you can handle things on your own if you need to. So, what does an interdependent mindset sound like? It sounds like I can be self-reliant and open to support, right? Needing support is human, it's not a weakness, and offering support is how we can stay connected, right? Interdependence can sound like it's healthy to ask for help when I need it, and it doesn't make me less capable. Offering support to others can come from genuine care and not a sense of duty or scorekeeping or obligated or people-pleasing, right? And that needing others and letting yourself be needed deepens trust and safety. Sharing struggles doesn't make you a burden, it strengthens the relationships. And letting people in doesn't take away from your autonomy. Letting people in doesn't take away from your autonomy. So, this right here, shifting and being aware of hyper-individualism, y'all, I want you to look for it everywhere in our culture and how it's praised. It's praised when people are like, oh, they did this thing all on this own. This one person changed the world. What about their team and their community? And my bangs need to get it together. All of them need to work together to get it together, if you're watching. Right? Hyper-individualism, it's basically the water that we are all swimming in. So we're so used to this that we aren't realizing that we're breathing it and we're seeing it everywhere. I want you to be aware of it and notice it, and to notice those sneaky little thoughts of like, oh, I can't talk to anybody, or I need to deal with this alone, and start practicing those other thoughts, right? Of like, sharing struggles doesn't make me a burden. And also, it's healthy to ask for help when I need it. And, right, letting people in doesn't take away from my autonomy. I'm still an individual. I'm still a person. And you're part of a community. So, this mindset right here, practicing interdependence, y'all, I was trying my freaking best, unlike my bangs. I was trying my best, if you see me messing with them, but I was trying my best to find like a really beautiful, clear-cut manual to present to people on interdependence, but I really think the best way to describe it is to be securely attached, which means to feel comfortable, like accepting help and comfortable dealing with things on your own in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, secure attachment is so much more than that, but I think that is like a main thing when people think about secure attachment is I feel secure enough in myself that I'm going to be okay, me, myself, and I, and that I can trust others and rely on others and offer support. And I think that's just the best and most simplest way to think about it. And this mindset right here, it's this thing, this bucket of interdependence is going to be the thing that the other two buckets that I'm going to give you today that are going to help you build your village. This right here, if you're still like rooted in hyper-individualism and you're not moving to this new mindset of interdependence, it's going to be really hard to do these next two things well and in a way that really truly feels good. Let's embrace it. Let's practice it. And one of the best ways we can do that is to call it out and to notice all of the hyper-individualism culture that we are swimming in. The more we notice it, the more we're like, there it is again. There it is again. The easier it is to not buy into it. I'm a little sick, everybody, if you can hear it, but we're moving on to our second thing. Number 2, building a sense of community. So when we talk about building your village, it's so easy to imagine that like you would only call like your best friends, like your inner circle, but a thriving village also includes like warm, familiar faces that you see in your daily life, like neighbors that you nod to, the barista that knows your name, or the parent on the playground that you chat with while your kids are out climbing and stuff, right? Research consistently shows that even small interactions matter. So much more than we think, right? There's a study done by Sandstrom and Dunn that was done in 2014, and it showed that people who made brief connections with strangers, like a quick chat with a barista or a compliment to a stranger, felt happier and more connected afterwards. Right? These moments create a web of what's called like weak ties. Sociologist Mark Grandovetter called them this, and it's basically bonds that might not be really like emotionally intimate, but are like the social web that we are all in. And these are super important because they give us a sense of ease and safety as we move through the world. And if you are listening to this and you are thinking in any way, Jewel, like small talk is the bane of my existence, like regular contact like that sounds terrible or it makes me anxious. Y'all, I want to offer that for a lot of you, it's going to involve increasing your social fitness. Oh my gosh, sorry, I'm sick. This is just going to keep happening. So I'm not like sick enough where I need to be like resting, like I still have a lot of energy and feel great, but I'm enough where it's annoying. Where there's like a tickle and you're like coughing and gagging and it sounds fake, but it's because you have like a tickle, a little Gucci goo, a little in your throat. Okay, anyway. That's where I'm at. So, your social fitness. There are different definitions on what this is, but I think really it's about like the comfortability or the habit of being relatively social. Because y'all, a lot of people, even some of my most extroverted friends that are so extroverted, they make me look like a hermit, okay? Even some of my most extroverted friends have admitted to becoming socially avoidant because of the culture that we live in. It's normal to just like be home, stay home, prioritize that, especially if, you know, you're somebody that works from home. And really, social fitness is about just like communicating with other people, being in community relatively regularly, and it doesn't have to mean like plans every weekend or anything like that. And if you're like, Jewel, but that sounds terrible, I promise you there's studies that say otherwise, even if you are introverted. So we really don't realize how much these small interactions fill up our cups. Like, yeah, for sure, like some small talk can be a little draining and etc. And yes, I promise this goes for introverts as well, because introverts are really just people that prefer lower stimulating, like more one-on-one conversations, maybe a little bit more alone time, but really they just prefer less stimulation. Their brains get full of stimulation faster than extroverts do. Now, a study done by Epley and Schroeder in 2014, it's one of my favorite studies, found that people who talked to strangers on public transport felt happier, even though they expected it to be awkward. Y'all, this study, almost everybody, even the extroverted people that were like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy myself so much more if I don't talk to people and if I just read a book, they found that like everybody enjoyed talking to a stranger on public transport than if they did anything else, including introverts. Now, Dan Buettner's research also shows that cultures that have regular community, casual interactions, like people that greet neighbors daily, stuff like that, they have lower rates of loneliness and way better health outcomes. You like being around people more than you think, I promise you, right? Dr. John Casopose, Dr. John Casopose, I think that's his last name, I don't know, but his loneliness research shows that even the small moments of community help buffer the feeling of being alone. So literally nodding to someone on the street, sharing a quick laugh like in the line at the grocery store, right? It doesn't replace like the value of your closest friendships, but it helps really lighten the emotional load of feeling isolated. Honestly, we hear so much in our culture, right? Like, oh, I'm going to drain my social battery. Fair, please. And have you thought about your connection battery and recharging it? You might not need to like go out on a Friday night, go to a party, but you might need to like sit in a community coffee shop and talk to a couple of people and like even just be in the space with other people, read a book, and have some casual conversations, right? Community helps fill up our connection battery. So do our closest friends. And in building your village, this acts as like a layer, like of a wider web, a casual community. Again, this is what helps create a sense of belonging. It literally like reminds your nervous system that you are a part of a larger, like caring world that has like real benefits to your well-being. So if you're hearing this and you're like, okay, but I can't imagine myself creating this sense of community, going out there and increasing my social fitness, I got you. So how can you start weaving these threads? The tickle! Okay, how can you start weaving these threads of connection to strengthen your village? Nick, you don't even gotta cut that out. It just is what it is. Okay, you can practice small talk in low stakes places, the grocery line, the dog park, the coffee shop. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, that absolutely sounds terrible, I encourage you to do this even more. And you can go and listen to the episode that I have on how to have better conversations and like really add like a sense of playfulness to your small talk, like a little joke. And all it has to be is like, oh my gosh, it like this line is going so long, like we're gonna be best friends by the time we get out of here. And you don't even have to have a conversation with someone like that. And that's just something that you might be like, oh my gosh, Jewel, but I don't want to be best friends with them by the time that line ends. That's just something I came off my dimmadome, okay? That's just something that came right off my brain as I'm sitting here thinking about it. But just adding that sense of like playfulness and fun in like low stakes places is a really great way to increase your social fitness. I don't know about you, but one thing I have realized is that even just being in an elevator with somebody and then like saying, oh yeah, have a good one, I notice I'm like smiling afterwards and feeling good. And I want y'all to notice that, experiment with this. Again, it's really just going to increase your social fitness. Now, the second thing that's really going to help you practice small talk when you're out and about is also to get out of the house, right? Like so much of building your village, of building your community, and of practicing social fitness begins with simply being in places where connection can happen. So when you're at home, you're in your own bubble and you might feel safe, but you're not encountering the micro moments of community that strengthen your sense of belonging, right? So get out of the house. It doesn't mean you have to constantly be out of the house or be constantly social or seek out like deep conversations with everybody and make a new friend everywhere you go. It's just about like letting yourself be seen. Like even if you're just taking a walk around the block, like nodding to people, waving, or if you're sitting at, like a cafe with a book, or just like being in public like spaces, it increases your chance of spontaneity and low-stake interactions. Y'all, I work from home, and granted, I work from home and normally on Zoom with people all day. However, I know it's so helpful for me to make sure I have one day a week where I'm out in the community and then doing deep focus work. I go to the library every Thursday with one of my best friends. And yeah, I get to talk to her and see her whenever, but now I've recognized like familiar faces at the library that I wave to, that I'm like, hey George, how are things going, when I walk in. It's so nice. Okay, another thing you can do is to like join community activities, right? Like a local class, a volunteer event, like a neighborhood cleanup. Now, this episode is about building your village without overextending yourself. Please honor that. But also know that you are going to increase your social fitness by going to these things. You're going to get your connection battery charged up by going to these things. And so, especially if you are starting to feel burnt out, I really recommend that, maybe you don't jump in and take a leadership position at a local group, but maybe if there's like a local cleanup, you go and participate for a little bit. Or again, I just love that example of like going to a coffee shop and like reading with a book. Being out in a space around other people will be really good for your mental health, especially if you're starting to feel burnt out. Like, it's really about the next one, which is letting yourself be seen in your community instead of like running away after grabbing your food and not talking to anybody. Now, if you have capacity to get involved with a local organization, I gotcha. So I created a free guide on like a bunch of national organizations. So no matter where you are at in the US of A, at least, you can find a local chapter near you of like an environmental group or a group that's fighting against what's currently going on in 2025 in the United States with immigration, right? So you can get involved in stuff like that. That's really, really meaningful work. It also can give you a sense of purpose. I really recommend that if you have capacity. Now, our third thing, building meaningful friendships. So we've talked about the power of casual community ties and even how like waving to a neighbor can ease some loneliness. But let's be real. Let's be so real. There is nothing quite like the deep, soul-nourishing bonds of friendship, right? Now, I want to also be clear, we're not going to go too deep into making friends or the science of friendship, as I've talked about in some episodes, and as I cover in so much detail in my workshop, How to Make Your Friendships More Meaningful Without Adding to Your Plate, which, y'all, I teach at wellness events, schools, and organizations. So if you want me to come to your company, your school, and teach on this, link is also below. But I wanted to give you some great advice, some great starting points for how to make friendship more part of your village. And it's also a little taste of my workshop, How to Make Your Friendships More Meaningful. So, to make meaningful friendships, or to strengthen your meaningful friendships, to strengthen the bonds in your social network, one thing I want y'all to do is to prioritize just a few friends and not prioritize everyone. And y'all, it can be easy to slip into the idea that we like should be a good friend to everyone we care about. But the truth is, like, our brains and our hearts just aren't built to sustain such deep level of connection with like a ton of people, right? And the thing is, like, being an amazing family-like close friend with everyone, it's just impossible. And I think this is what a lot of people aren't considering when they are putting advice out on the internet of like, you've got to be a better villager. Because the truth is, you can't be a drop everything, call me anytime friend to 20 people all at once. That's going to overwhelm you, overextend you, especially if you are a people pleaser. So what does that mean for building your village? It means to focus some of your energy on creating a small circle where you can show up fully, rather than to try to juggle like a ton of people. And when you do that, you let go of some of the exhausting pressure to like keep up with everyone's needs, and then you have the space to really nurture these meaningful friendships and have real room for these friendships to grow and to strengthen, and to have these people that are really deep family-like bonds. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't show up for people that you're not like besties with. You can still show up for your neighbor that you live by, or whatever it is. Like, still show up for people in your community, but I think it could be really helpful when you're building that sense of community to prioritize a small number of people in order to not get overwhelmed and to burn yourself out. This really, again, helps take the bond so much deeper and closer. And research backs this up, right? Studies show that humans can realistically sustain about three, maybe to 5, but 3, ride or die, really close bonds kind of friendships at a time. Enough where you could call them your chosen family, right? About 3 to 5 people, one of those people probably including your partner. And maybe one other real life blood family member that you have, right? And social scientist Jeffrey Hall's work shows that it takes about 200 hours of shared time to build the kind of best friend bond that we all crave. 200 hours of laughter, of meals, of memories, of quiet talks, and of simply being there for each other. Now, if you tried to stretch that closeness across 20 people, you're gonna end up feeling scattered and burnt out and unable to give to anyone, including yourself, the real warmth and presence that you deserve. So, if you're okay, I want to do that, but how do I know who my core people are? Well, if you're not sure, I really think one of the best things I heard is they're the people that make you feel more like yourself, not less. Now, for some of you hearing that have social anxiety, you might be well, I don't know. I'm going to give you some more ways to look for your core people. They're the people that leave you feeling energized, grounded, more at home in your own skin when you're with them, at least 80% of the time. They show up when you need them, and even if it's inconvenient for them or messy, at least 80% of the time they show up for you like this. And they're genuinely curious about your life and are generous with their own stories as well. And again, at least 80% of the time. And at least 80% of the time, they make it feel safe for you to just drop the mask and be real, even on your days when you're not your best. Now, I say 80% of the time because, especially for women, we can kind of project our perfectionism onto people. And they're well, that one time, they weren't really there for me. We're all dealing with other humans. Let's give each other some grace and understanding. And again, I can't say this enough. By prioritizing a few friends, you are not saying a big F you to everybody else in your community. You're just focusing a little bit more intentional effort on this small circle. It doesn't mean that you stop showing up for your neighbors or your coworkers or your broader community, right? It's just these 3 to 5 people are the foundation. And when you nurture those relationships first, you could really create a steady well of love and trust that ripples out to everyone around you. And that's one thing I just wish more of these content creators that are talking about community would say. Now, for meaningful friendships, one thing that I also think is helpful is, and that helps make it easier to show up and to have time for your meaningful friendships without overloading yourself, is to schedule regular times to be with this person. Scheduling a regular get together, a weekly or bi-weekly get together, it really helps take the guesswork out of oh my gosh, when are we going to see each other? It takes it off your mental load. You know that you're going to see your friends, and it just frees up so much mental energy. There's no back and forth texts about schedules. So doing this helps there be no pressure to make every gathering, every time you see your friends, to make it a really big event. So it's just a steady rhythm of connection, of seeing your friends that fits into your life. And so some examples of this might look like rotating yoga nights at each other's homes. This is one of my favorite things I've ever heard of, where on Reddit, these girls were pulling up a free YouTube video and doing yoga together once a week, and then they would rotate houses every week. Are you kidding? I'm obsessed. Okay. Or you could do weekly or bi-weekly swaps where you help each other tackle a home project, organizing a closet, rearranging furniture, turning something that would be a chore into a shared moment of support and conversation. It could also just be hey, will you come over while I clean my space and just sit and chat with me and knit or play on your Switch and just have fun, just being a part of each other's lives, and then you can switch or whatever it might be. It also might be a regular meeting book club Or you could start a routine where you know when you're driving home from work, you're going to call your friends. Or you could do something like, okay, you know every Tuesday you're going to go on a walk at this place, and then you just invite people, and there's an open invitation for neighborhood walks, and whoever can join can join. And then that way it's about like the habit. And then if nobody's able to join, you can call some people and they know to call you during that time, right? There's so many options here. These little rituals, they help make like time for your friends easier, especially if you are involved in a bunch of things or you have kids, whatever it may be. These little rituals help make it easier, and they help make friendship like a part of your life and not something that's like squeezed in or you can't remember the last time you seen your friends. One huge tip that I also have is to make sure when you are hanging out with somebody, make sure you plan the next time you're going to see this friend before you leave the hangout. So that way you can just skip all of the texting back and forth of like planning, and you could just spend time with each other then. Now, again, going back to our topic of interdependence and of hyper-individualism, a very interdependent way to show up in your friendships is to normalize the language of help, right? Like, one of the most beautiful and essential parts of these close friendships are not just that like you're swapping stories and you're making memories, but that you're offering like help and support. Truly, like, yes, we don't like use our friends for help and support by any means, but like it's so meaningful to like fold laundry for a friend while they recover from surgery, or to have somebody drop off a meal to you when you are just absolutely sick out of your mind, or to like water somebody's plants when they're out of town. And then like normalize that, offer those favors and ask for those kinds of favors. Start again, like all of these things I just mentioned, they're like small things. Start with those. And it's tempting to think that you're going to burden people by needing them, but the truth is, in these like 3 to 5 core friendships, offering and accepting help can make the relationship so much deeper and meaningful and build so much trust. This is what really makes it feel like family. Like, y'all, I will never forget, like, when my best friend last year had a major surgery, I found myself practically begging her to let me come over and like vacuum for her and do anything she needed, like clean dishes, anything to help. And it wasn't about obligation. She was one of my 3 to 5 people. I wanted her to feel supported and held and to make her life easier. And I was a busy freaking me. And I was like, no, I want this. And I had to like tell her that, like, let me be here for you. Dang it, right? Our culture is so hyper-individualistic that it may take you leading with this at first, leading with, hey, this is vulnerable and uncomfortable for me, but I'm asking for help. Or, hey, I want to help you, dang it, let me in. Right? Now, if you are somebody that tends to be a people pleaser, or if you're like, okay, Jewel, I get it, I need to be less avoidant, but like, when do I help? I have 2 questions for you that are going to help you check in with yourself. And again, I can't rant about this enough. This is another thing that I want more content creators that are talking about building their villages, building their communities to talk about, are ways to check in with yourself. So that you're not overextending yourself in the sake of like, well, we got to build a village, a community. So you can check in with yourself with question 1. What is your overall energy, your battery level right now? On a scale from 1 to 10. I would say if you're at about like a 6 or a higher, you're probably in a good place to give. But if it's lower, you might need to find a smaller way to help, like give some encouragement or support, or just give yourself permission to absolutely rest and take care of yourself. Question 2, why are you asking yourself that? Like, is it coming from a place of genuine care, or from fear of disappointing somebody or trying to please them? When you're really honest with yourself about these answers, your help can feel nourishing instead of depleting to you and your friend, and it can strengthen the bond. My other huge tip for having meaningful friendships be a part of your village, increasing the bond in your meaningful friendships, is to live life together, not just catch up on it. And y'all, we all have done it, like sitting in a coffee shop recapping the like last month of our lives. But that's not really where real intimacy grows. Like, sure, yeah, we want to have like catch up calls with some friends every now and then. But again, when it comes to these 3 to 5 people, we want to really be making memories with them. Like from like parallel play of us coexisting together, of us shared adventures, like not just the highlight reels. Like we want to be in each other's highlight reels. So, like, think about like cooking a new recipe together and sharing the laughter if it turns out like a little bit wrong. One of my favorite memories ever is when one of my friends clogged the toilet at my house and flooded my bathroom. Nick, if you cut this, I swear to God. And cleaning that up with this friend was so fun and silly. It is one of my favorite memories. And another one of my favorite memories is climbing a mountain with a friend. Like, do you see that these don't have to be big and grand things, but also they can be. They can be really fun and just memory making. So some other like readily available options to you, I have 2 more. They might be like exploring like a new part of town or like a roadside little oddity or something, and like letting yourselves be like curious and delighted. It might be like volunteering side by side at a cause that both of you care about. Right? These experiences, they create a different kind of bond, like creating these memories. Like it's vulnerable, it's about being real in the moment, and it can turn somebody who's like a casual friend and someone you see occasionally into someone who's truly a part of your life, like a part of your stories. So, those 3 things: embracing interdependence, being aware of hyper-individualism, right? Being involved in your community, building your sense of community, your sense of social fitness, and then 3, building meaningful friendships through these things. Y'all, this is how we build our villages and create a village of tapestry, connection, meaningfulness. Y'all, I'm also just gonna say, I am one of the quote unquote busiest people I know, truly. And being a part of the communities that I'm a part of and spending time with my friends gives me so much energy because of all of the love and laughter. And it gives me so much energy to do the things that I really care about. And I'm a bit of an ambivert. I'm in between extrovert and introvert. But again, if you're an introvert, that might just look like lower stimulation activities. And making sure that you get your connection battery filled up. It doesn't mean you have to be around people all the time. I'm not saying that. But yeah, this episode was really meaningful to me. If it was to you, it means so much to me if you shared it. And as a reminder, June is the last month of the Socially Delightful podcast, at least for now. We'll see what happens. But if you want to keep up to date with me and all of the things I have going on, please check out my website, connectionwithjewel.com. Come follow me on the socials, say hello, let me know what stuck out to you and what was meaningful to you. It would mean so much and make me feel so seen. And thank you for being here. I've been absolutely delighted doing this podcast. It's been so much fun, and I'm delighted that you were here to hang out with me and that you were going to build a really beautiful, strong community for yourself. All right, see you next time.